Hey, good morning. Welcome to Warfighter Park, at least virtually. We've got a little bit of a crowd here this morning to do a little bit of a mini town hall today. As usual, I'd like to start the town hall with a moment of silence. This particular moment of silence, I'd ask us to remember a few things very specifically. So I want to remember all those who have fallen, who have died protecting us. I want to remember our teammates who have been recently lost to us, as well as those teammates who have lost a loved one, particularly in this time where you can't properly grieve family members and friends because of restrictions. Those who have lost someone or have been injured as a result of the events in Minneapolis and the ensuing protests. And as always, those who are standing the watch around the world tonight protecting us. So if you would, join me for a moment of silence. All right, thank you. All right, so today, in light of the crowd that we have here, it's a small crowd for those of you who can't see it. We're going to start a little backwards compared to our normal town halls. So we're going to start off with our NAWCTSD Employee of the Quarter, Mr. Chad Goulet. Sorry about that, Chad. He's a logistics management specialist from our sustainment department, is recognized today for his identification and implementation of required tasks for the NAVAIR cybersecurity program as they apply to our naval aviation training devices. He's been an integral part of the cybersecurity sustainment integrated product team for the past 3 years and has worked on the cyber requirements for multi-fielded training system support, our FTSS contracts, including the MH-60, the P-8, the E-2D, and the F-18. So Chad, congrats as our NAWCTSD Employee of the Quarter for the entire command. Nice, thanks Chad. All right, now we have a couple of our team awards, our annual awards for the command. The first one is going to be the annual Admiral Louis DeFlores Training and Simulation Award. This year, that's presented to the Sailor 2025 Ready Relevant Learning Team, also known as RRL. Receiving on behalf of the teams, Captain Gallagher, the Training Systems Program Manager, and Eric Pfefferkorn, a longtime and plank owner of the RRL team. The RRL program is one of 3 pillars of the Sailor 2025 initiative, a Navy-wide initiative with the primary focus to provide the right training at the right time, in the right way, thereby ensuring that every sailor receives innovative training closer to the point of need. The NAWCTSD RRL team worked tirelessly, yeah, that's true, throughout 2019 to methodically revise the foundation for providing the fleet and the warfighter with a training continuum that leads to fewer dollars wasted on unnecessary course time, reduces the risk of injury to sailors during training, minimizes equipment loss, and prevents mission failure. Most importantly, making our sailors better sailors. In 2019, they delivered the first of what will be many completely retooled training pipeline curricula, the Operational Specialist Rating. Congratulations to the Sailor 2025 team on the Louis DeFlores Award. All right, and the last of the awards I have today is the 2019 Ray Malentino Coach of the Year Award, presented to Mr. John Lomax. So John served as an extraordinary role model, coach, and mentor to countless proteges through your Navy career, both while on active duty and for your 21 years as a government civilian employee here at NAWCTSD in the training analysis, design and evaluation, and program management divisions. John will often sacrifice his own time to mentor a protege or to provide assistance to someone who seeks his counsel, putting aside things and giving up his personal time to do it. He's an acknowledged expert in his field, sought out by his subordinates, peers, and supervisors for advice on difficult issues. The impact of John's coaching and mentoring benefits not only civilian employees, but in turn benefits NAWCTSD and the fleet we support. By making those people better, you're making our fleet better, John. John's unparalleled professionalism and genuine interest in the success and well-being of his employees and proteges make him a most deserving candidate for the Ray Malentino Coach of the Year Award. Congratulations, John. And I think we pulled the surprise, right? All right. Congratulations. All right, shifting away from our awards, I want to provide a few updates this morning on what's going on, because I think it's important that we never miss an opportunity to do that, particularly in this time out here. So as it relates to COVID-19, I want to provide a little bit of an update of what's happening with COVID-19 and our operations there. Across Team Orlando, we continue to track the data, both here in the amongst the commands, both the Navy commands, the Army commands, as well as the other commands, along with the county and statewide data. And we're seeing trends going in the right directions. We sit today at no cases, either personnel of interest or actual cases across all of Team Orlando, and that's a good thing. And we also see continuing declines in the direction for the case counts in the county and the state. With that, last week I submitted on behalf of the base a request to U.S. Fleet Forces Command to move the base and the surrounding area from stage 1 to stage 2 of our reset plan, as well as from HPCon Health Protection Condition Charlie back to Health Protection Condition Bravo. There are a lot of bases that have submitted in this initial wave, and so we're waiting through the process now to receive word back on that for hopefully what will be an approval to do that. It's not going to change a whole lot for us here, but it will give us the authority and the ability to start changing things. We intend, as do most of the Team Orlando commands, to continue operating in a max telework posture, mainly because we're getting our mission done in that posture. I want to make sure that everybody understands that what we're doing with our reset plan right now is to ensure we're creating a safe environment here on the base, that we're monitoring the situation both here in the local Team Orlando commands and around the Central Florida area, and that we have a ready response in the event something does pop up in terms of a case, that we know how to isolate things, contact trace individuals, and clean up if need be for that. We're creating a safe environment for you to return to. The tenets moving forward, though, I want to reiterate, because I know there's been concern from folks about being forced back to work when they don't feel safe or when they're not ready to come. First of all, I want to make sure people understand it's going to be a mission-driven decision, what we need to do to support the fleet through our programs. It's going to be focused on workforce safety. I think I've been very clear about that in my weekly update emails. And it's going to use all flexibility that's been made available to us, the same flexibilities we've been using since March, to ensure we can consider individual needs and desires and situations as we move out there. So there'll be more to follow on that as the situation changes, but I wanted to provide a bit of an update today. In short, though, I do want to make sure people understand, despite the fact that we're in a distributed workforce posture, we're getting the job done. And that's due to everybody out there maintaining focus on what the mission is, despite all the distractions. I've done a little bit of teleworking myself, and every time I have a little furry coworker or two that join me, I've got a child that needs some help, and my kids are older. So I can only imagine those of you with much younger children or many more animals or elderly folks that you're taking care of, you're having to fight through some even different things, and I'm not teleworking every day. So thanks for working through that. Thanks for maintaining your focus. A couple of things that we've had happen that are very big milestones that show we're maintaining that focus. We crossed the $1 billion mark in obligations as a command much earlier than any year we've been tracking it recently. That put us about $375 million ahead of plan at that time. So that focus that everybody's using out there is actually allowing us to get ahead of the game. You've heard me say it or read me say it in emails before, that we've done some innovative things. We've used the government video services that DISA has provided to us to go out and do remote witnessing of test events and installs. I just received the note last night about our Cove team getting done a month ahead of plan, almost completely virtually. The contractors traveled and our team stayed back here and used Microsoft Teams, to do coaching of the ROTC staff that are on site at the different universities, as well as the contractors, and to work off deficiencies while on site. Very innovative use of a product there to get the job done. We've recently awarded our Battle Stations 21 sustainment contract to put that life cycle support plan in place for that critical asset for the Navy that's still in use for our sailors today. And then yesterday in the evening hours, I signed the partnership intermediary agreement with the University of Central Florida's Research Foundation that's going to bring the Central Florida Tech Grove, our tech bridge here in Orlando, to life. That's a pretty big deal because it's been a work in progress for about 9 months now. It represents a first of its kind agreement here locally, but nationally a first of its kind agreement that was set up from the start for joint service collaboration. So congrats to everybody who's working through these tough times and maintaining focus to get our mission done and get it done right and make our fleet better while they're out there. Some of the things we're doing here on base while you're away. Our SIPRNet expansion room came online a couple of weeks ago, and even after social distancing, we have more than 200% of the SIPRNet capability that we had available to us beforehand. Once we're able to relax social distancing, we're going to have something on the order of 300 to 400% of SIPRNet access available to all of you on base here, and that's a huge capability that we frankly was well overdue for us here. On the third deck, as I walked around yesterday, 2 phases are completely done and in the process of being accepted and connected for their NMCI terminals. It takes you just shy of the PDS areas, the surface program areas, not quite to the elevators yet up there. The area between there and the elevators have all been wired up with new connectivity for IT and telephone connections. And then the areas further down are in the process of getting repainted, cleaned, and rewired now, all awaiting the components to arrive. So by the time we get through the end of this fiscal year, we're going to have a completely new set of seating configurations up there on the third deck. I think you're going to like them. I walked through the SAPF expansion just this morning before I walked down here, and that thing is also getting very close to completion. We're projecting an August occupancy date for that, but from walking around the outside of that facility, you wouldn't know that it's going to take us that long to get there. We're almost back to normal as you walk the hallway past that, and as you walk around where the cubes will go back in around that facility. Our live virtual constructive for training expansion for the live virtual constructive distributed operations center is almost finished as well. We're awaiting a door and a security system, and that's it. And so that system should come online pretty soon and allow the team to populate that environment so that we can use it in an Antex supporting the fleet in the fall. Nature's Table, the cafeteria area, has been completely retiled in there, and I think you're going to like it. It's a much brighter atmosphere, much more modern looking when you go in there. We needed to do that based on some safety issues that arose with the previous flooring, but we were able to get that done, knocked out, and it's ready to go as soon as we're able to open up Nature's Table. Similarly, we have an award pending for starting the first deck, the only area in the building that hasn't yet been recubed. With the new furniture and such, and we expect to get about half of that done this fiscal year with an award pending here in the next few days. Beyond that, the MPR, the multi-purpose room, is getting an audio-visual upgrade so that these town halls and other things that we do via VTC will work a little bit better, and you can actually understand some of the things that are and participate in some of the events remotely from the MPR. One that I know everybody has on their mind is the cell phone repeater. That was loud and clear through the Diox survey and everything else. What are we doing to improve the cell phone signal here on the base, particularly inside the DeFlores building? There's an award pending. We actually have proposals in-house now to get that done, and we're trying to get that done in this fiscal year. I'm not going to make promises about it getting done in this fiscal year because we're still working through the proposals and such, but it's on the docket, it's funded, and we're ready to go do it. We've been working through cleaning up the stairwells and redoing the treads on that, so there'll be a little bit of a brighter, safer place to get through. And then we've got some other spruce up projects going on both inside the buildings and outside. Not all of that is going to happen before the end of this fiscal year, but it's all, for the most part, going to happen between now and the first quarter of next calendar year moving forward. So we're taking advantage of this opportunity to press forward and continue investing in this workforce and our facilities to continue making us a world-class organization. Lastly, I want to talk a little bit here about the Diox survey that everybody had an opportunity to participate in. I'm going to give a little bit of a wave top view of it right now and maybe whet your appetite for what's to come. But expect in a couple of weeks, we're going to do an Ask Me Anything event via Microsoft Teams on the CVR environment that will involve the entire front office staff. We're going to go into very deep detail on this survey and what you told us via your participation. So first of all, I want to thank everybody that participated. We had a record 48.5% participation rate. That's not even close to what we've had in the past. Last year we had set a record with just over 30%, and so 48.5 blew it out of the water. To give you a bit of comparison, NAWCTSD, as our parent command, usually sees something in the high single digits for their participation rate. So thank you for taking the time to do that. Diox is a survey that we're mandated by the Navy to do. What we choose to use it for and get out of it is all up to us. So that you participated and we were able to glean valuable information out of it is good on you. Overwhelmingly, the data that you'll see in that survey when we released that via the AMA was overwhelmingly positive, almost off the charts positive. But in a continuous improvement mindset, we had lots of feedback from the workforce on places where we can improve and continue to improve our organization. And we're sifting through that right now to make sure that our calendar year 2021 objectives are laid out to take on some of those things that you asked us to look at. I'm going to share some data here today via a few slides about the Net Promoter Score portion, which was one question we actually added to the Diox survey. So if we look at the first slide, and you'll see me looking down a little bit through this, the employee net promoter score is basically a way that we look at maintaining a winning culture here at NAWCTSD, ensuring that our employees believe positive things about our command. It's a measure of employee loyalty and satisfaction across the command, and it uses, as I've mentioned, this employee net promoter score. And the question you answered that got us to this was, on a 0 to 10 scale, how likely are you to recommend working for NAWCTSD to a friend or a colleague? And then why? With the why being an open-ended question that you were able to provide feedback for. Looking at the next slide, I want to talk a little bit about how you get to a score and what that means in the Net Promoter Score world. So we had 491 respondents to that particular question on the Diox survey. You'll see there that of those 491 folks, 300 were promoters, where promoters are defined by people who rated us a 9 or a 10 on that would you recommend your working at NAWCTSD to a friend or colleague. 129 folks picked a score in the range of 7 to 8, which we consider as passive in this, so neither promoting nor detracting from the organization. So you can see it's kind of a conservative view of things. And then anybody that rated us from a 0 to a 6 was listed as a detractor. And so you see over there on the right the breakdown there: 300 promoters, 129 passives, and 62 detractors. And so you can kind of already see a trend there that we were overwhelmingly positive. But how does that work from a scientific method? So if you go to the next slide, this shows you how net promoter scores are actually scored on a scale. So you kind of throw out those folks that were passive and you look at the number of promoters in terms of a percentage, the people that gave us a 9 or a 10, and then you take away the percentage of detractors, the folks that gave us between a 0 and a 6. And you get the net promoter score, which is a positive 48 for us. And if you look over on the right, net promoter scores can be scored from a negative 100 to a positive 100. What I'm told from talking to Kathy Gonos and her team is that typically you'll see things like Amazon and Google, those companies that people really think are great companies to work for, somewhere in the 30 to 40 kind of range. Something over 50 is considered like off the charts great. So that we got a 48, we're excellent. It once again doesn't mean we don't have room for improvement, but it means you told us that overall things are good here at NAWCTSD. As I mentioned, we're going to do a Microsoft Teams event here in the next couple of weeks to go a little deeper on that and show you some of those areas that you told us you would like us to look at for improvement. We're serious about taking those on. There's a couple of things that I want to talk about right here on that, though, is that we talked about the cell phone repeaters as something that everyone was concerned about as a quality of life and potentially a safety issue within the building. I view it as a safety issue because for myself, the XO, and the security team, cell phones are a part of our command and control structure here. And such. So we're going after that one. I mentioned that. So we've heard you loud and clearly and heard you again on the Diox, and we're doing something about it. Action is what counts. The other one that was a clear trend in the Diox survey, not just in the Net Promoter Score, but all the way through, were our IT tools and our network connectivity. Well, first and foremost, I'll talk a little bit about the network connectivity. We've been working via the digital group for a year or so now to improve that. We've had a pipe coming on board the base that was fundamentally smaller than it should have been for this base, and it wasn't redundant. We've put the architecture in through DISA now to change that. We have a much bigger pipe coming into the base already. And it's redundant. So some of those outages we've seen in the past shouldn't happen in the future. The last piece that we're waiting on that we expect is going to happen in the fall at this point based on workload and workflow is that we need NMCI to come and connect to that pipe so that our NMCI connections will run through it. Some of our other connections are already running through it, but NMCI will be the last part of that. Once that happens, again, we should see a much higher reliability rate out of our connectivity. We should see much better performance when patches are pushed because we won't be saturating the network with patches and such, and overall see a much more usable network to bring us through. Okay, so that takes care of the network connectivity part of it if all works well, but what about the IT tools? So I think we talked a lot via email, via different videos about all the tools that the Navy has released during this time of COVID to help us out. That's been a huge help, as has been noticed by and noted as we've looked at some of our programs and the progress they've been able to make out there and such using these tools. We've seen a lot of adoption of Microsoft Teams and WebEx. In fact, I did onboarding via WebEx yesterday. It seemed to work out pretty well, and the feedback I got from some of the folks I knew in there was that it's working out pretty well. Probably not as good as sitting in the room for that one, but nevertheless better than doing nothing in this case. So let's take those tools and project further a little bit. We already have a group of folks in the workforce that are doing a pilot for Office 365 and the migration from our current environment to that environment. And at that point, things like Microsoft Teams become integrated with your normal Outlook and other tools that you use. And so it's a much more seamless experience. The other good thing about it is when that happens, we become cloud-based. And by doing that, Nelson tells me that the average inbox around here gets to be 50 times bigger. Yes, that's 50 times bigger. It also means that those patches that you're used to seeing will be a little more seamless to you as well after you get the initial push of Office 365. So what we're doing as a command to try to take advantage of that and understand it is, one, we have the pilot ongoing that's across NavAir. I believe we have somewhere around 50 folks participating in that pilot to try it out. So we can get some lessons learned and know a little bit more about what we're going into before we have the entire workforce headed that direction. By the same token, and given the fact that a lot of us are working from home with a better connection than what we might have with our current pipe here at work, we're looking at opportunities to potentially accelerate the move to Office 365 and make that happen quicker, which would give you a better experience. We want to make sure we understand exactly what that means first, but nevertheless, I think you're going to see some major improvements here in the next few months for our IT tools. More to follow on that. So I want to close today with just an assurance that as we get more information on COVID, I will certainly pass that along. You've been seeing my weekly update emails, both to you and to Team Orlando on that, so I will pass that information as soon as we have it. I want to congratulate again all of our awardees today for their hard work and perseverance and focus that earned them and their teams those awards. I want to thank each and every member of our team once again for your focus and your tenacity in working through the events that are ongoing right now, all of those events that are out there, because you're making it happen for our fleet. You're making our fleet ready to fight tonight and prevail against the enemy tomorrow. Thanks.